We're on, we're live. Welcome everybody to episode 8 of this humble little Zoomcast we've been doing right throughout lockdown. I'm Matt Grima, and today, well, we changed tack a little bit. When you think of property management and you think of Marshall White, there's always a name that's on the tip of the tongue. It's Kate Humphreys. Welcome, Kate.
That was so cute. That's not really it, but thank you.
We've got to build up these intros, Kate. People like that sort of stuff. How are you?
I am good for this Thursday. I feel like this week's flown. It's almost Friday. The week, I mean, look, the days are rolling into one. The weeks are just never ending. And come on, boys. Let's get us out of this mess really soon, hey?
100%. 100%. Kate, people, we're talking from a real estate perspective, been fortunate enough to talk to a lot of great people in the industry, predominantly Marshall White people. And whenever you hear things in the media or the newspapers, that typically when they're talking about real estate, they tend to come from a sales angle. And I thought today might be a really nice opportunity, given how difficult some circumstances have been for the property management game, to get one of the best in the business, and I don't say that lightly, to jump on and maybe give people a little bit of a snapshot about your world, what's been happening. I heard one of our guest speakers on the Zoom calls called property managers the doctors and nurses of the industry, and I thought that was a nice touch. But how have things been?
Look, I reckon because we can look at this lockdown as two parts. So first part, obviously the initial lockdown, and then the second part. So I think really the first stage, there was probably a lot more stress and anxiety, and tenants were freaking. People that were moving into homes were pulling out left, right and centre. Our team was inundated with people trying to, and some people that were genuinely saying, look, I need to discuss a rental reduction. The other people really taking the mickey on it. I think the first stage was probably a little bit more intense than this second stage. We were really fortunate enough that because we're part of a really big team and a really smart team and a very forward-thinking team, and very much a dot your I's and cross your T's type of team, where our manager was like, okay, before we even go down that path, let's have our lawyers look at drawing up some documentation to try and actually weed out the people that really were needing that help and needing that rental relief, and then the others that weren't. So, I think we kind of pride ourselves now knowing that even in this second stage, we are the percentage of tenants that we have right now. I mean, we manage between our 5 offices, now 5 offices, we manage 2,700 properties. So it's massive. Yeah. And there's probably about, I think it's about 9 or 10% that have actually had a rental relief during this last 6 months. So what we've also noticed is there's been quite a few changes in our legislation. So, knowing that a landlord cannot evict a tenant due to rent arrears, that is a massive, and that all sort of, I guess it was like, it just sort of all rolled into one. We were learning what was happening and changing like everyone else was. I mean, we were going to the REIV for guidance. We were talking to other officers and just finding out what everyone was doing. And I think really we were sort of looking for the answers. And I guess, knowing, as I said, the first stage was quite the crazy stage, we were really supported. I mean, I think one of the biggest things about Marshall White and I think the PM team is there's daily calls. We do Zoom meetings. I meet with Team Stonington Tuesdays. We did a cup of tea yesterday. We have a meeting on another BDM meeting on a Tuesday. And then we have these amazing mentor sessions. And let's not forget, every second Friday, we do a thing called a whip and sip, which is where you talk about what's happened and have a glass of wine. So I think that during that whole stage where we've got tenants and landlords saying, what's happening? What am I supposed to do? Tenants saying, I'm moving out of my lease. I'm not moving in. I can't. It was just sort of taking it day by day and looking at every single situation and really reaching out to our seniors and our peers and saying, okay, this is what's happening right now. What should we do? Yeah. And I feel like, then we hit a bit of a normality. So, okay, we're in this, we know what's happening. everyone sort of started to come back to the office, and we were sort of starting to do a little bit more. And then obviously as of the 5th of August, it then really went into complete shutdown. So I feel like everyone sort of knew what was happening. And because a lot of that first stage, everyone was just trying to educate our landlords and our tenants on saying, this is what's happening right now. This is the legislation, and keeping those lines of communication. And I guess we're really fortunate that because we have smaller portfolios and other agencies, it's still overwhelming. At the end of the day, the property management side is super overwhelming, but it was just, taking a step back and getting as much information as we could from our team leaders. And I'm going to shout out to amazing Anthony Wiseman, aka Tones, Mr. Fix-It, partner at Marshall White. Whoop, whoop. He does a lot with the RAIV, and in terms of, he's sort of our go-to mentor with training. So if there was ever anything we needed to clarify, especially for my team, I would go to him and say, Tones, what happens here? And I mean, look, it's constantly changing. The hard thing is now, when, let's just say you want to move back into your house, Maddie, and you've got a tenant in there, you technically can't kick your tenant out until March.
Until March, is it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, on the property management side, that was sort of, and because we were obviously still, one of the biggest things I found was I really liked going into the office, and there was only a certain few of us in the team that were doing that. And I think it was just, and then when obviously we found out we had to close the office completely, everyone was coming in, getting their computers, and we were trying to we were just trying to still have a bit of a joke and see the lighter part of it all. And I mean, even 2 days ago, Candice sent an email and said, "Oh, funny, haha, I've got a tenant now requesting rent reduction because it's his birthday." And I was like, there you go, it's your birthday. Let's not pay your rent, buddy.
Kate, can I ask, so there's two sides of the fence for what COVID's done to the property management industry. So there's landlords, obviously, that have had tenants request a reduction in rent because of their financial situation due to maybe a loss of job or reduced hours, or whatever the case may be. And on the same side of the fence, there's some stress and anxiety from tenants who are saying, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to make my rental payment this month or whatever that period of time is. How have the team managed that stress and anxiety, and do you see some light at the end of the tunnel?
Look, I think it's probably safe to say that everything that's happening right now, and really the legislation is probably a little bit more tenant-sided, and we see it from both sides because you have a relationship with your tenant and you have a relationship with your landlord. So if a tenant is able to really prove that they've lost, or their hours have been reduced, they're financially in a position where they can't afford to pay the full rent, then it's going back and claiming hardship to the landlord and explaining the situation. So I think because our percentage, and I think we're fortunate in the areas that we work, and the houses and apartments and units that we look after, and the type of tenants that we work with, that percentage is still quite small. But Maddie, it's, reality is there are people out there that there are tenants that are on the phone saying, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent next month. And there are still landlords saying, I need to meet my mortgage repayments. This is my investment property. So, as I said, it's all well and good to sort of say, oh, everything's fine. Look, it's not. I think we all kind of know in every sense it's not. So it's just doing the best. And I think for our team, everyone's super experienced. And because we've seen stage 1, which is the first lockdown, I think we were all just really reminded and really just to say, look, you've got to remove yourself from that situation. You're only doing what you can do right now. And I think really being open, it's hard for a landlord. It is. If you're a landlord that's got this at the moment, and finding a tenant that's paying it's normally roughly around about 20 to 30% rent reduction. That's sort of been what's been happening. And, I think that the government really didn't give us too much legislation on how you would, I guess, it's all negotiations.
We're all
really
learning on the run, Kate. That's for sure.
That's it. That's that's totally it. So there have been some situations where landlords have said, okay, I'll put a freeze, and you don't have to pay your rent for the next 3 months, but you have to pay everything once everything's up and running. There have been some landlords who said, all right, I'll give you the next 3 months rent reduction at X. And then other landlords that have said, you can have a reduced rent, but you've got to pay the next back once we're all up and running. So
Right.
I think this second time it's sort of been a little bit of an extra little kick in the guts, where, I mean, look, I think we're just going to work out and learn what's going to happen, coming out of this. And I guess there's all this sort of, everyone's sort of saying, oh, there's going to be a big boost and there's going to be a lot of people, it's all, the economy is going to sort of roll out again. And I mean, look, if I had a crystal ball and I said that everything was going to be okay, we can only hope.
We're trying to spread positivity, Kate, so I need you up and about here if you don't mind. But
No, I tell you what, I think because we're, as I said, we've got a really small percentage, and our team, without all the officers, they're so smart, they're so good, our property managers, and keeping those, and it's probably only a handful in each portfolio that are going through this right now.
Yeah.
But I would be sort of confident to say that within the next 12 months to 24 months that we'll look back on this, and it'll be a massive learning curve. And I'm sure we'll be stronger than ever.
Yeah, well said. Do you have any, if you could stare down the barrel and have some advice for say a landlord at the moment or a tenant at the moment, what does Kate Humphreys say to both of those people?
Look, I think we're really coming out of it. We honestly have. I think what's happened is, no one predicted this. I think for a tenant to know that you've got the support of us and also the support of the landlord. And I think it's, the biggest thing we always find is getting it right from the start. So putting that right tenant into that right property. You're never going to get it right from all the time.
Yeah.
But just sort of saying, look, we're going to get through this. And Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, it's communicating. It's constantly communicating and knowing that the tenant is going to do the right thing by the landlord and the landlord's going to do the right thing by the tenant.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that we are really governed, and there's a lot that's happening right now. You can't, as I said, it is a lot more tenant-sided, and that's fine. There's a lot of people out there hurting. I mean, there's in every, even if you're a homeowner, there's a lot of people out there hurting with everything right now. So
sure.
I think it's just hold up. Hopefully we're going to come out of this sooner rather than later, and the worst is behind us. Like it is. We've come this far. I think that it will be, the next 3 months is probably going to be where everyone needs to go, okay, it's done. No more talking about it. Let's get ourselves out and let's end 2020 on a break.
We'll soldier on. On. No, well said, Kate. I thought it'd obviously be a good opportunity to touch on what's currently going on. I appreciate some of the commentary that you had on that. Kate, 13 years in the game, 8 of them with Marshall White at the moment. As I said, you're one of the very best at what you're doing. You've done it for a long time. A lot of people in Marshall White know you, but perhaps people that aren't a part of our company or aren't a part of the property management division may not know the Kate Humphreys story and how you've come to be where you are at the moment. Maybe touch on the background.
Yeah. Well, I'm a local Bayside girl. I went to an all-girls school, Star of the Sea. Very strong women that are actually, built there. I'm one of 3. I'm the middle child, the best child. Middle children are always the best children. And I did a degree at Swinburne and Hawthorn, business marketing.
Yeah, right.
And I was always, and I also came from a family where my parents separated when I was young. And I was, I grew up with a mum she was working, 2 part-time jobs. Sorry, she was working 2 jobs, 1 full-time, 1 part-time. So she was always really very, very much work-driven and supporting us and, really sort of and doing everything she could for us. So I was actually illegally working at the age of 12. And then by the time I was, must have been my second year at uni. I was was at uni and doing 3 part-time jobs. And then by the time I got to 23, I'd been in retail, I've done HR, I'd obviously finished my degree. I went traveling with some girlfriends and we went over to Europe and, as you do the whole Europe thing, live life. I came home and I, everyone, my family's like, come on, gotta get yourself sorted.
Yeah.
time to go. And I actually landed a job randomly with JB Hi-Fi, and JB Hi-Fi up on the Nepean Highway and in Brighton. And I don't know if anyone has ever worked at JB Hi-Fi before, but the culture there actually is insane. Like, they have all walks of life. They've got staff, like, on average, I think now, like my best girlfriend still works for JB Hi-Fi head office. Wow. And we're in our mid-30s. She's been at JB since she was 17. She's now, sorry, babe, she's now 36. So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
what did you do at JB?
I was actually only out the front. I was just selling stock. I wasn't doing anything in terms of, I was doing sales, but it was still pretty low key. And I think what I realized at uni was I was doing business marketing. I really liked, there was a few components in relation to selling. And I think it was just sort of having that little bit of contact of being in retail as well. I just really liked the face-to-face. And I always had jokes with people, like people would come in and I'd be like, Sal, try this, do this, what about that? And I think I always just really liked, that contact with people. So I think a lot of the times in our industry, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I landed my first job, and it's weird, I landed my first job up in Armidale, because as I said, I'm Bayside based, at Hocking Stewart, Armidale. So, and I was with those boys for 3 years and I loved it. But I guess, you always want to grow and you always want to progress. And in my career, I've been in leasing. I've also managed a portfolio. I've also, I don't know if you know this, Maddie, but I actually did 2 years in sales.
I was going to ask, Kate, you are so sales, your style is quite salesy, and the JB Hi-Fi grounding that you got was probably part of it. But I was going to ask, did you ever think about becoming a fully fledged listing and selling real estate agent for a period of time?
I did. I had the pleasure, and that's sort of how I came across to Marshall White too. I got, after 3 years in Stonington, I ended up moving back with Hocking Stewart in Sandringham. It was awesome down there. It's like a little village. And then I felt like I wanted a bit of a real challenge. But I think it didn't take me long. It probably took me about 18 months to realize that I still really love the sales side, but there was something in me just saying it's not clicking, and I think I really realized I loved that interaction. I really enjoyed working with buyers, but it was, I guess and I just felt more at home in the leasing and property management side. And then this opportunity came up, and I met with Paula Matlock, and I was like, oh my God, I hope she gives me a job. I just remember thinking, I'm already part of Marshall White, but I was like, please, come on. And then she did. I took a maternity role, and then, all these years down the track, and it's so funny, like, you realize, it doesn't take you long to realize when you're in the right environment and you're in the right team and you've got the right people around you and you really love what you're working on. And we're so fortunate. I think you just don't take anything for granted. And some of the people in the office, or Andrew Hayne especially, his nickname for me is Happy. He's like, hey Happy, why are you so happy? And I just think, well, do you know what, life is actually really hard as it is. Like, life can be super hard. Why make it harder for people, for everyone else? I think you just sometimes got to get up and get on with it and do what you love. So,
Well done. Well said. That's you've summarised that beautifully. Kate, there's different layers to property management. You touched on some of the roles that you've had throughout your journey. You said you managed a portfolio. You're currently now the business development manager of the Stonington division at Marshall White. For those who don't know or just think of real estate from a sales perspective, maybe talk through some of the differences in terms of each person's role.
Yes, so in our team, we've obviously got the business development managers. So we've got 5 of those across our offices. We then also have our leasing managers who look after, they support us, so they work with us. And then we've obviously got our property managers who look after the day-to-day management. Then we've got our marketing team, our admin team, and then obviously our leadership team too. So, and there are people in the background that don't actually get the recognition that they deserve. And that's, they're the ones that are just the driving force. And like your Zara Singhs and Jade does all of our organising, our training. It's funny, we had a mentor training today, and it was this singer, Claire Bowditch. She was actually on that show Offspring.
Yep.
She's written a book. She's got a podcast. And the really funny thing is, Maddie, what we ended up doing, because there was like 30, however many of us on her Zoom meeting this morning, she got us to put on mute, and she was playing Eye of the Tiger. Oh, so she was like, literally like, come on, guys. And that's why I'm like, you know what? It is like, and she was just talking all about your inner critic, and that's probably one thing I think, I think because our industry, especially in property management, there is such a high turnover of staff. And one thing that sets us aside from so many other companies is that we don't have a high turnover of staff. And you break that down, you go, why don't we have that? And it's because of the support. It's because of how they look at the how they look at the roles, how to structure those, how to make you work smarter instead of working harder, and just bringing it back so that everyone sort of is not overwhelmed. I think when people are super overwhelmed, they go, too much, I'm out, I'm done.
Yeah.
So for us, and when we talk to clients that are working with competitors, that's one of the biggest things. They say, I've worked with, I've had 3 different property managers in 12 months and I don't know what's been happening, and it's just about building that relationship. So I'm super proud to sort of say, well, my team, we're all chooks. We've all been together for so long, and everyone, and we are a family, and that's just the beauty of it. I mean, having a cup of tea on a Wednesday morning and talking about the most random things, but that's just what you need sometimes.
Yeah. I've got a really good relationship with Brendan Allen, who was the first episode of this ZOOMCAST.
Legend.
Brendan's got a beautiful way of giving a bit of a holistic view, like to talk about other parts of real estate. And often him and I have just said, geez, it'd be tough to be a property manager, or, every call that a property manager get typically is going to be I need something done, or I need something fixed, or something is broken, or can you help me with this, or that's not quite working. You're always reacting to something that needs, in the eyes of a tenant or a landlord, some immediate attention. Now there's varying degrees to that. We all get it, but for that moment, at that time, with that particular person, they feel, and rightfully so, that they are the most important person on that call or in that spot.
That's exactly right.
If you could grab a younger property manager or someone that's has battled with some of that part of the industry, what sort of advice would you give them?
You know what? It's like a tennis. So I always say this is it's like a tennis match. You are constantly, there are balls coming at you everywhere.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you miss a ball. Sometimes you absolutely hit that ball, and it's a lot. There's a lot to take on. And I think because we look at our gurus, and especially I've sort of probably put our company on a bit of a pedestal, because I've had the opportunity of working with a few other companies, and I know what the differences are, and it definitely comes down to the people, and it comes down to who you look up to and who mentors you.
Sure.
So the younger people that are in, are in and are probably thinking like a lot of people do, you give a job a go for 12 months and then you go, it's too much. You let it get the better of you.
Yeah.
Because we constantly have a lot of mentoring and a lot of training, and, just a lot of building of relationships. You can't sweat the small stuff. You have to honestly take every day as it comes. You've got to prioritize the really stressful things. And that's probably one of the things where, you said you and Brendan were like, oh my God, there's so many things that happen. There is, and you've got to have this super thick skin. So you leave the computer, you leave at your work, and you say, I'm done. I'm not going to let anything else. And that's one of the really good things is the expectations of our team, and when you're actually working and when you're not working. And you know what? It's 6:00 on a Tuesday night. You're not working.
Yeah.
That's your family time. So that's a non-negotiable, and you're not expected to return a call. And if you are expected to return a call, that's tomorrow. That's tomorrow's job. So it's just, and we always say, it's educating our tenants and it's educating our landlords, and we are very much contactable. I think we're fortunate. They can contact us And that's why, as I said, the communication's key. And one of the biggest things that I think that we do so well is that every property manager with their portfolio, we've sort of been grown to be taught that's your baby, that's your business. So you treat that like your little business and you treat it the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
So it's just that promise. I think it's that over promise and under deliver. That's not how we work. That's you under promise and over deliver. And I think as well, because we have so much support around us, Maddie, like, when there's something that's a bit hairy, you can say, you can call or you can email and say, listen, I've got this situation. Can I just ask you what your opinion would be?
Yeah.
And I think because, as I said, over in our team, we've got our amazing young property managers who are just so, all they just really want to strive to do them, and they do. They're so great. Yeah. And then we've got our senior property managers like your Tanya Smith and your Anthony and your Jay, and so they're there to help. And it's like, everyone's on the same level. Yeah. So it's finding that right fit. I think that's it, and looking around your team and making sure that you're surrounded by the right people that lift you up.
Is there a tipping point, Kate, do you feel like, where you can comfortably manage a certain amount of properties, and then if you start to have a few more, I'm not talking Marshall White specific, I'm talking, right across the board. Is there a point where a property manager can have too much on their plate?
100%. Yeah, look, I mean, the Victorian average is normally around that 2 to 220 properties. So you're dealing with 2 to 220 landlords and tenants, and that's a lot. Like that's an obscene amount. And you're doing your leasing, you're doing everything. So that's why, as I said, you want to really make sure that you've got the right support. And look, we've got property managers. There's some that can work faster, and sometimes I look at someone and I'm like, how do you do that? Yeah. Like, how do you just get, and you're just like, yep, done, bang. They are the most organized people you're ever going to meet. Yeah. And that old saying, ask someone to do something who's really busy, like that, they're the people that you want to ask. And they're so dot your I's and cross your T's and everything, this old saying, property managers put everything in writing. There's a reason why we say put everything in writing, because in our side of the industry, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Yeah. So we're very much more systems and processes driven and follow-ups, and we're dealing with tradespeople, we're dealing with our tenants, our landlords, and it just every day, there's never one day that's the same. So definitely.
Kate, what have you been up to during lockdown away from real estate? Are you a podcast person? Are you an audio book person? Are you yogaing? Are you meditating? What are you up to?
Namaste, no. So
you'd want to in your game, I reckon. That might be a nice stress management part of it.
You're totally right. Look, this second lockdown, because I'm the type that even the first one, I was like, suit on, get into the office, because I'm Bayside and I obviously work at Armidale. Yep. I was that person that was fighting not to go to the office. Right. So even the last day, I was like, what do you mean I can't come in here? What do you, like, yes, I'm coming. So anyway, so really it's been, 6 weeks? But I actually moved house. And
between phase 1 and phase 2?
Just between, so in these last 6 weeks. So, so I've done a mini renovation and moved house with a 2-year-old, trying to work. So actually I've got to say it's probably been good because I've had something to keep my mind going. Yeah. But as well, I'm a bit of a creature of habit. So, even in these 6 weeks, even though I'm getting up and going nowhere, I still, I'm still trying to go to bed at a certain time, at a decent time. And everyone goes, I'm trying to exercise more. I'm trying to cook more. I'm just getting through the day, man. I'm just like, come on, we're going to do this. It's Monday. And also music. I don't know about you, but music is my life.
What are you rocking out to at the moment? What are you dominating?
Look, this is really sad I tell you this. I got onto it just before the office closed on Spotify. Gold FM. Don't even get me started.
Gold FM.
It's just a podcast. Sorry, it's just a playlist. It's called Gold FM, and I've got to tell you, it's got some really good tunes, some good belters.
It's the 80s and 90s, some beautiful music there. Drizzy Drake at the moment is probably something you might need to tune into occasionally, but there's nothing wrong with a bit of Gold FM on Spotify.
And my brother, my younger brother would absolutely be so embarrassed that I'm saying this right now because he's in the music industry and we have shared a love for music for so long. But look, and especially, and look, when I am exercising, I do still try and get out and do a little bit. And I've just moved near the beach. I'm trying to run the beach. I definitely listen to a little bit of Pitbull while I'm running, a little bit of like a little bit of Beyonce. But I think, because I've been fortunate that I've been busy with the move, I haven't really had too much to sort of, I've just been busy. Is
the 2-year-old Oscar?
Oscar, yeah.
Oscar pumped to be back on the swings?
Do you know what? He's a busy boy. He is obsessed with rubbish trucks and diggers and like total boy. So all he wants to do is be outside and play. But at bath time, I make sure the music is pumping. And, I don't know if you know that song, that Dolly Parton 9 to 5 song. And it's got that big do. So every time he's in the bath and he hears it and we dance to it together, it's so lame. Maddie, I can't believe I'm telling you this.
Yeah, no, we're recording, Kate. This is on, by the
way. whatever gets you by.
That's what we say, raw and uncut. And this is raw and uncut, let me tell you. And by the way, on Spotify as well, Kate, and iTunes.
I love it. Come on. Everyone subscribe. Yeah. I'm going, So no, he's good. And that's another thing, like being a mum and basically working full time, I think as well, all those female support that we have, like everyone in our office who is, and that's probably the nicest thing. I'm probably not explaining this correctly, but I waddled out of there when I was 8 months pregnant and I waddled back 8 months later. And I think that just there's just a beautiful family at Marshall White. And even through that time I was on maternity leave 2 years ago and just the support and, we weren't in a pandemic, but I still felt like while I was away from everything, I still had so much, so many people contacting me and love. And, that's the thing. That's,
Yeah, the size of the team, I think, Kate, you really value that at the moment with lockdown and that sort of thing. The amount of calls that have come in from a variety of people and a variety of offices, it's just a nice reminder of the size of the group and the amount of connections and contacts that we're fortunate enough to have.
That's it. Like that's you've hit the nail on the head. And I thought at the start, I was like, wow, we're over communicating. But as the weeks have come on, you kind of really look forward to that. And you want to do that. And like this, you asked me to do this. I was so proud to do this and be part of this because, sometimes it's so easy for people to say, you work in real estate or you do this, but we're human freaking beings, and that's it. We
want the best for our clients, want the best for our families, want the best for ourselves. It'll happen. Kate, you're an absolute star. I genuinely appreciate you jumping on. This is a bit of a shout out to all property managers, not just at Marshall White, but across the board. Well done for the effort that you're putting in to date, and no doubt that you'll continue to put in once the world becomes a more normal place. But well done. An incredibly difficult job, but one that's really rewarding as well. So I appreciate you jumping on, Kate. Good on you.
Here to help, buddy.
See ya.